Here we are at the Utah State University Library for some interviewing to ask people if they believe that men and women can be just friends. So let's go inside and see what we can find. Do you believe that men and women can be just friends?
Yes.
Yeah, of course. Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it'd be hard to do.
Yes.
I mean, we're all men,
I know.
so of course we're going to have those feelings, and we can be content with just friendship, and we can be silent regarding those feelings, but we're gonna have them.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
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 I don't believe so. No. I guess what I'm saying is no.
Okay, we'll walk with you. Do you believe men and women can be just friends?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, do you have any guy friends right now who you're just friends with?
Yeah. Oh yeah. All of my best friends are guys. Dave.
Trevor.
Taylor Mulford.
Bobby.
Yeah.
How long have you known Trevor?
2 years.
Of those guy friends, do you think any of them secretly like you? And be honest,
Probably. Yeah.
do you think that guy is interested in you?
Yes. Okay, maybe you can only be just friends in high school, because most guys don't just be my friend.
Would Dave hook up with you if you gave him the chance?
Well, yeah.
Do you think Trevor liked you?
Yeah.
And
Shoot.
would he hook up with you if you wanted to hook up?
Yeah.
So he likes you. So what you're saying is men and women can't be friends.
No, we can be friends.
But you're just friends, but he likes you.
Yes.
It's a one-sided friendship.
That was one instance.
If she wanted to hook up, would you hook up?
Oh, totally. Look at her.
Don't be sarcastic, I need the truth.
Seriously, yeah.
Alright, there we go. Alright, that's perfect. Okay, cut.
Because of physical attraction, it's not possible.
But you said I just want to be just friends.
Yeah.
Now, do you literally believe that he's not interested in you at all? Yes! That's what I'm talking about! As we can see, after interviewing everyone in the library, it is impossible for men and women to be just friends. And under no circumstances can it happen. That's a wrap.
I think he deserves a round of applause. Yes, I think I'm going to try to argue that he's right. Basically, I think that the talk is not so much about the 3 movies by John Carney, but rather this final thesis there, and whether there might be some exceptions to his thesis. You know, I mean, his thesis is no. Then we'll explore whether there might be some exceptions. But let me first thank Sophie and Crystal. Sophie, the person who gave the title to this talk, What You Mean to Me, etc. Crystal, the recent winner of the Notre Dame Film Festival, as you might know. And thank you too to the Irish Rover for making this opportunity possible, and to all of you for being here, especially to the 2 babies that are here, probably preparing themselves, these 2 small girls, for all these future interactions, the ones we've seen. Let me start by saying that whatever there is of truth in what I'm going to say is surely either the result of chance or age and experience and the grace of God. And whatever is wrong is because I am a law professor. So if you saw the posters, probably struck you as a bit absurd that a law professor would be talking about such important things. One would think that The law is for banality and technical stuff. Let me also clarify that I will speak here as if there was any need to clarify, as a man, not as a woman. But many of the things I will say whenever I refer to a woman, if you are a woman, you can think of a man. But to avoid clarifying that each time, you know. Right. Also, by way of introduction, there will be many spoilers in this talk. So if you don't want to know about how some movie or other finishes, you can leave the room right now. At the same time, I will say that the movies, and especially these three movies by John Carney, an Irish director, these three excellent movies, they won't feature very much in my talk. My talk will be about the problem the guy was talking about, and the movies will be like an accident or an excuse to help me answer the question, are what I will call mixed friendships possible? Is it possible for guys to have girlfriends and girls to have guy friends? Is it possible to be just friends? Well, my thesis is very extreme, and perhaps it is wrong, but of course I think it is right. And that is that the only type of mixed friendship which is inherently stable is marriage. All the rest are inherently unstable. They have in them the seeds for the destruction of that friendship at some point in the future. A destruction that perhaps will never happen, but the seeds are there. Of course, this is not to say that marriage is otherwise necessarily stable. It can be unstable as a result of other reasons and problems. What I'm saying is that the circumstance of the two parties being of different sexes does not provide the lack of stability that it does provide to other mixed friendships. I also must clarify that although marriage, as I think, is the only stable kind of mixed friendship, it is still different to friendships between two persons of the same sex. And it has complications that are absent in the friendship between two guys or two girls. And these complications have to do precisely with the, let's call it the sharing of a bed, which doesn't happen normally in the others I refer to. But it is true that marriage, friendship, and let's call them regular friendships between guys and guys, women and women, have something in common that is of the essence of friendship. And that is that they allow the unleashed sharing of everything, which is exactly what cannot happen, in my view, in a mixed friendship. So insofar as someone has a mixed friendship, if that friendship will endure, it will be because there is a permanent exercise of checking and control that doesn't need to feature in the same way when we're talking about a married couple or when we're talking about two guys or two girls. That will be my theory. The sharing, when it comes to marriage or to a friendship between people of the same sex, is only limited by circumstances, by contingent circumstances. But there's nothing that the person will have to deliberately withhold from sharing, which is exactly the opposite, as I will try to argue, of what must happen with a mixed friendship if the person doesn't want it to be transformed into a potential romance. Right. Sharing. The idea of dosing, the verb for the noun dose, as in the doses for a medicine, is the key to understand the situation of someone who attempts to have a mixed friendship. The presence of a woman for a man, and vice versa, as I said earlier, is something very enriching, very important for everyone, and therefore it is natural that a man will like to have mixed friendships, will like to have women in his life that he can consider friends. And in this sense, these friendships will be like honey or like sugar. These are good things, but if you take a lot of those good things, this is bad. And here comes the idea of dosing. You see, it's not unleashed. It's not like with true friendship. It's always, okay, I will share with you the books I like up to a point. So, for example, the splitter in Begin Again, one of our three movies today, is very useful to understand this. As Mark Ruffalo says, a splitter is when you have two headphones with one input for music. And he explains, Keira Knightley, that on his first date with his then wife, they spent the whole date with a splitter, which he still keeps now, listening to music together, and in 2 months they got married. So what's the flip of the coin of this? Well, if you don't want to get married to someone, don't spend hours on end listening to the music each other likes. I'm not saying that everyone will get married in 2 months, but you get the idea. Then when apparently Keira Knightley starts to develop an interest for this man, and apparently he starts to develop an interest for her, what do? They start using the splitter. The same splitter he used with his wife in the past, he's now using with this friend. They even go to a disco, they dance together, listening to the music, so blocked from the outside music in the disco. If you think of Once, the oldest of these three movies, the idea here is not about listening to music, but about making music, as in Sing Street. So here what unites you to the other person is that you perform together, you write lyrics or songs, and in Once, this naturally builds into a relationship that crosses the boundaries of a friendship, and because she's married to someone, although she's separated in the present, she decides not to go forward. Instead, in Sing Street, a similar situation of writing music and so on, because the two of them are single, that takes them now to be boyfriend and girlfriend in the movie. So the sharing of things, the sharing of books, the reading of books together. Your favorite book, The Idiot. The sharing of a cigarette, like when in the television version of Brideshead Revisited, Julia asks Charles Ryder to light a cigarette for her, which means that he will have the same cigarette on his lips that than she has, you know. In Begin Again, Mark Ruffalo's former wife is smoking when he goes visit. They are separated, but he spends a few minutes there and he borrows the cigarette. Then he takes it. So same cigarette, same lips, the touching, the body language. Let me talk to you a little bit about another movie. This is a very recent one. called Allied with Brad Pitt and Marion Cotillard. They are spies in the Second World War. They are in Africa, and she is a spy for France, and he's a spy for England, more or less. And part of their mission is to pretend that they are married. They hadn't ever met. The movie starts when they meet for the first time, but they are trained professional spies. So now they are acting as if they were married. They kiss. By the way, haven't you ever wondered why actors and actresses fall in love so often, and why they typically date Hollywood people, you know, that perhaps they kissed on the set, where in theory this is the profession and all that? Well, here in this movie, they actually fall in love. They are supposed to be faking all the time. That is, they are way less than friends. They are professionals, and they fall in love. Yes, you could say this is Brad Pitt, this is Marion Cotillard. Doesn't really matter. Doesn't really matter. At what point in the movie, the very dark, sinister idea starts to surface the atmosphere that she is indeed not in love with Brad Pitt because she is a Nazi spy. So this was all a bluff, and Brad Pitt was like deceived by her, and you start to doubt. And as I was looking at this part of the movie, I was thinking, well, maybe if you make a great effort not to fall in love with someone, as this Nazi spy seemed to be doing, then maybe you won't fall in love, even though you're spending time and all that. Why was she doing this great effort not to fall in love? Well, because she wanted to save her country, Nazi Germany. So she had a great reason to run the risk of falling in love with someone. I wonder how many times this is true about the friendships that guys initiate with girls and vice versa. What is it that is at stake? Because you need a really big why to justify going forward with something that may end up where you didn't want to be. I mean, there are so many people out there to make friends, aren't there? Now I'll completely spoil it for you. Love in this movie was even stronger than nation. And she ends up betraying her cause and staying with the guy. And this is not because he's handsome or because she's beautiful. This is because we're talking about the strongest drive, force, urge on earth. So you may want to, put all your effort for something not to happen, but if you do the right or the wrong things, depending on how you see it, then it's likely that will happen. My conclusion at this point is that mixed friendships only work in Zootopia, where Judy the rabbit can actually be friends with the fox, because there is no attraction between a rabbit and a fox. You see, my student in Argentina, he would say that's not true, because there are girls who are so unattractive, he would boast, that I can surely be friends with those girls. So my only condition for me to be friends with a girl is that she's very unattractive, he would go in class. This is law school. Law school is an undergraduate degree there. But my student is wrong. My student is wrong because attraction is not only about the body, as you know well. A good example is attraction even in the absence of a body, like through letters or now emails. I read a very beautiful book recently called 84 Charing Cross Road, on which a movie was based called The Same, with Anthony Hopkins. This is in the 90s, and this is all about the letters between someone in London and someone in New York, and how, you know, they start to like each other like too much, and one of them is married, da-da-da. No, they had never seen each other in those days. And I Googled Helen Hanff, and I can tell you she's very unattractive. Very, very. And I'm sure that this guy, Frank Doyle, found a picture of Helen Hanff because she was famous, and it doesn't matter. I mean, the soul matters a lot more. As a candidate for the Republican Party said in September, when they interviewed him, and they asked him about a wife who apparently, I'm from another country so I don't talk about politics, but apparently she's a supermodel. They said to him, so what can you tell us about, I think they said Melania, is that possible? What can you tell us about Melania? And he said, oh, she's a very good person. Oh no, tell us something else. We want to hear she's a very good person. No, but I mean, she's extremely beautiful. And then he would say, well, you know, beauty. After 2 or 3 months, what you want is someone who will listen to you. Well, whether we like his immigration policies or not, there is some truth to that. There is some truth to that. I was having dinner with 2 guys in Guatemala before I came here, and I hadn't met them. I was at this table because of my friend, who is neither of these 2, and I am quite direct. So I said to these 2 after 10 or 15 minutes, are you guys like married or boyfriend and girlfriend, or what's the situation here? Just so as to know, you know. And he said, oh, not at all, she's my best friend. And she said, and he's my best friend. I spend more time with him than I do with any of my siblings and my friends. It was very clear to me that she was totally in love with the guy, by the way. And then I bluffed and I pretended that I was totally in agreement, and I said to him, what you're telling me is that she's like an angel for you, right? And he said, exactly, you read my mind. And I thought, but she's not an angel. Angels, they aren't like this. Yeah. Right. So my intermediate conclusion here is that if at all possible, a mixed friendship is unstable. It will tend to slide or to break. To slide to romance or to break, and when it breaks, it causes a lot of pain, which is why I thought I would give this talk, especially to protect my gender, but you know, both sides can be to blame here. Are there exceptions to this general rule? Well, one was mentioned by one of the ladies in the video. One exception is children. Children do and can have, I think, mixed friendships. So if you read Harry Potter, for example, you see that when Ron, Harry, and Hermione were children, they were friends. But as soon as they cease being children, when does that happen? That's a good question for us, not for them. For them, it's very clear. It's the teen years or whatever. Then problems start to unfold, jealousy, blah, blah, blah. I was thinking that perhaps one of the reasons why mixed friendships sometimes flourish at a campus like Notre Dame is maybe because people are like children in a way. And that sometimes innocent, childish attitude permits sometimes friendships. But is that good? I mean, is one to be proud of being like a young Hermione or Ron when one is already 20 years old? I mean, am I going to hold to my childhood so that I can have my mixed friend and I won't lose her or I won't lose him? I don't think so. Someone was saying to me last night something that is more or less the opposite of this. This was a lady, and she was saying to me, you know, it's the guy's fault that we can't be friends because in college they are already corrupted and all they see is our bodies. Would they be different, then we could be friends. But this is not true. Or rather, it is very true about some guys, but even if guys wouldn't be drawn by the body of their classmates, they would be drawn by their souls, by an attraction that is more powerful than the physical. And certainly, of course, as time goes by and physical attraction, who knows where it ends. In any case, if I go back to my more optimistic scenario for Notre Dame, and I'm surely wrong about many people, but imagine you are the innocent person that has a mixed friendship. How much will it last? How much will that friendship last without that becoming a dating relationship, or without one of the two realizing that this, now we're no longer children. Now we're 44. I don't know. By the way, the key issue here is what you want, what a person wants. So when I say beware of re-encounters with your childhood friends, I mean of the opposite sex, now that they are so easy via Facebook or those things, I say beware if you don't want to end up in romance with one of those friends because you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, because you're married. You need to be very careful. But then if you aren't, and what you want is precisely to meet someone, well, then maybe it's not a bad idea. In the same way, maybe it's not a bad idea to start a friendship with someone that ends up eventually in a dating relationship and later in a marriage. So it all depends on what I want. The measure of prudence depends on what I want. My goal is what controls the amount of dosing, the amount of prudence that I need to instill. This is even a psychological, non-moral thing. If what I want to be is unfaithful to my boyfriend, or to my girlfriend, or to my spouse, then you need to go. All my theory holds true, and you want to have mixed friendships because you know that what you want is really not mixed friendships, but rather to be unfaithful, or if you want to find love, or whatever. So first exception, children. Second exception, when there is a huge age difference. But I want to say that about this exception, the situation is relevantly different depending on who is older. So I want to say that, for example, I think I have two real friends of the opposite sex, and both of them are 25 years older than me. I think in those cases, it's very likely that it will work, that friendship. The other way around, more uncertain. There's always more room for uncertainty in this fallen world in which we are. Thirdly, third exception, blood, family, sisters, nieces, grandchildren. So, for example, some saints of the Catholic Church, famously, their best friend was their brother or their sister. My sister is certainly one of my best friends. So there is a good case for an exception here. There is a slightly worse case for an exception when it comes to spiritual fellowship brotherhood, sistership, saints, sainthood, more or less. I mean, John Paul II had a mixed friendship. He had a friend of the opposite sex. I read a 700-page book written by the friend of Carol Wojtyla. And yeah, but it was unstable. It was clear to me that this was an unstable friendship. And it is also clear that last year there was a scandal because of this, even with the Pope already canonized. Because some people found some letters that went one way or the other, and they thought that they were a bit shocking. They weren't, but you know. Saint Therese of Avila has a quote, a saying, which I couldn't find in English, so I'll have to translate it. It's very difficult to translate to English. She said in Spanish something like this: in between two saints of the opposite sex, there has to be like a wall. Like it's like a metaphor to show that it's going to be a difficult friendship. And certainly it's clear from the book I mentioned that Carol and Wanda, Carol Wojtyla's friend, were always on a short leash, and her husband was always around. Although this is no guarantee, as I will explain later, the presence of a husband. Okay, so enough about the exceptions, and I'm almost there, and I will gladly then listen to your comments and to your questions, and I will probably not be able to answer some of them, but I'll do my best. It's important, my next remark is to distinguish between a mixed friendship and acting out of charity regarding someone of the opposite sex. This is perfectly valid. It's sometimes mandatory or necessary or advisable, depending on the circumstances. But because the tension inherent in the attraction will be present, sometimes that charity will have to be exercised through another person, maybe, so that the recipient of my charity will not know that that comes from me, but maybe from a girlfriend, you know, maybe she's my sister, just to give an example of what I have in mind. There is like a thin line sometimes between mixed friendship and acting out of charity. So acting silently or anonymously, you don't need to help them yourself. This is very clear, especially when the person knows that the one who needs help has feelings for one, as that happens so many times, like so many former, so many ex boyfriends, girlfriends, or even spouses. They know that the other person is ill or needs review for an exam, you know, and sometimes they are so innocent, or they seem innocent. Sometimes people are less innocent than they seem. And they go themselves, and then that's a disaster. You know, it's everything again. You can do it vicariously. My final remarks. I was always annoyed before I prepared this talk by the way Hollywood portrays relationships between men and women. And you don't even need to go to Hollywood. In the film festival, there was a movie about a love triangle where one of the guys had a girlfriend, but they ended up together on a bed. And although there is exaggeration in Hollywood and in the Notre Dame film, in my view, the exaggeration of thinking that, as in the movies, like the day people meet, they will end up having sex. Now, I think that that exaggeration actually confirms the point in my talk because of the slippery slope, you know, because how how a friendship can so easily slide. And this is what happens, like in the movie Once, I need to mention my movies from time to time. In the movie Once, there is a very exceptional scene where the day they met, basically they go to his room and the guy asks the actress, we never know their names, whether she would like to stay the night there. And she's like shocked by the proposal, which like is totally un-Hollywood. You know what, I always thought Once, that's great. That's how all movies should be. But real life, in real life, after having spent 12 hours together, as they do during the songs and all that, the odds that the situation will not end the way it typically ends in Hollywood are very low, I think. It takes two to tango, the saying goes. And in the movie Once, what happens is that she's not willing. Later we know she's married. So it takes two to tango, and typically the guy, so goes the prototype, is the one who wants more. My second final remark is to put the question forward about whether it makes a difference for the purposes of my thesis if you are celibate, single, dating, engaged, or married. And my short answer is no. It doesn't make much of a difference. It makes a small difference. And here is when I come back to the presence of the boyfriend, in my case, or husband of your girlfriend there, and how that doesn't have to be too overrated. You know, sometimes people fall in this wrong pattern of thinking that if I am here with my girlfriend, but her boyfriend is here, I can say anything to her because he's here. So this is, and that sometimes leads to terrible situations. And if there is alcohol, even more so. No, because he's here and he's my friend too, you know, I feel free to say anything. Rather, my conclusion has been, and I've learned this through painful experiences rather, that, so in the past I would think, I will not say to a girl something I wouldn't say to her in the presence of her boyfriend. But now I think the other way around. I won't say to her something in the presence of her boyfriend that I wouldn't say to her on her own. So with me that works better, I must tell you. Third concluding remark. Matchmaking. Like many other activities of this sort, highly dangerous. Again, remember, I'm assuming your goal when you are matchmaking and you're talking to a girl or a boy to make a match, I'm assuming your goal is not for her to fall in love with you. But that can happen. Or you can fall in love with her. So matchmaking, be careful. You know, Emma, the novel by Jane Austen, will tell you a lot about that. Very problematic matchmaking. Mr. Knightley, by the way, in Emma is like the friend, the just friend who waits patiently. He's not a friend, he's never a friend. But Emma thinks he's a friend, and he's an older guy too, by the way. And this is the patient guy. You don't want to be that guy. Like be the friend for 20 years, like in Vanity Fair. I strongly recommend you read that painful book to understand why it is not worth being friends of someone you like. Not good. Joss teaches a lesson. It's important too to remember, and I hope I won't offend anyone by saying this, that girls love to be liked, and the more, the merrier. They are a little bit vain. So are we, of course. So they like to be liked by friends, by boyfriend, by everyone, by their father, by their uncles. Body contact. My next remark. I'm almost there. Body contact. Dancing. Who will you dance with? Girls, watch out those hugs. There are hugs and hugs. But why am I saying this? The girls know perfectly well this. This is why I'm saying that sometimes people seem more innocent than they are. Body contact. I remember one of the first girls I dated, maybe the second one. I was, I think, 16 or so. We were sitting on some stairs, and I held her hand at some point, like for 10 or 15 minutes. And the following day, she asked me, I wanted to ask you something. Why did you hold my hand yesterday? I thought, oh my God, this is a question I don't want to be asked. Well, this is what you need to think about, actually. Post-dating friends. Let's remain friends. So trite. So if friendship is always impossible, it's even more impossible if there was a spark of something or a dating relationship. So in those cases, if you want to be like in a joking spirit, what you need to say is something like this. Okay, we will meet again and maybe we will be friends. When I come, this you're talking to your ex, right? When I come to the first communion of one of your children, and you're 20 when you say this, right? And then you know this will never happen anyways. You should see, by the way, Young Adult, the movie directed by the director of Juno, where Charlize Theron faces a similar situation to this one. My conclusion is, as I thank you for your attention, that when it comes to the possibility or even the reality of mixed friendships, we ought to be sincere with ourselves. We ought to be sure of what we want. And if what we want is to be just friends, we ought to be very skeptic about that possibility and be very prudent. With these reservations in mind, I strongly encourage you to have many friendships with people of your same sex and enjoy them. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Santiago.
You're welcome.
We have time for some questions if anybody would like to.
On what the law student said, he
Well
made the
done.
argument that you can't have, you could have a mixed friendship when you're not attracted to the other person. If the argument against that is that you still have connection through a spiritual or mental connection, how is that different than a relationship between two people of the same gender?
Oh, I see. That's a good question. I think that the complementarity between the two sexes and the attraction, as with things that are meant to fit with one another, goes way beyond the physical. So there are some things, some aspects in the personality of a woman that have to do with being a woman that you will not normally find in your male friend. That would be my answer. I don't know if it helps or if it makes sense.
No, I agree with that. I just think it's possible that you had a situation where even the mental connection is based off similarities in that your minds are similar but not complementary. In that case, I would say there is a possibility.
Well, let's see. I could think of a scenario, hypothetical of course, where a woman is not only extremely unattractive, but also personality-wise extremely masculine. So, maybe.
It's a little out of the ballpark, but I think it's...
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I had a question regarding, like, I guess your definition of friendship, because I get that, like, I wouldn't be able to be the same level of friendship with a guy as I am with one of, like, my best girlfriends, but what about the varying levels of friendship, even between me and another girl? Like, there's certain people that, like, I would tell everything, but then there's certain people that you don't, and I still call them friends, and it just depends. And so what if you can still be friends with a guy, but you're just not on the very, like, best friendship level?
Yes, that's also a good question. I think that there is indeed a variety of intensity of friendship for you with girls. That in that we are in agreement. But what you will have successfully, in my opinion, with guys without the risks that I described will not fall in any of those. Although you might call them friends for social purposes, I'm not suggesting that you should give a talk each time you introduce someone, you know, as a friend, you know. But yeah, I mean, those guys with whom you have a connection that goes farther than a mere acquaintance, they may be similar, your relationship with them, to the one you have with some of your girlfriends. I agree with that. But there is a potentiality in the case of a guy that is normally absent in the case of a girl.
But what if that's just another level of friendship? Like, I'm not equating it, that type of friendship, to the type of girl friendship, but what's just a different kind of friendship?
Yes, I understand. The thing is that it may be a different kind, but that different kind, when we're talking about a guy, may become something else. Because it takes two to tango, you may think you're in control of that friendship and that you're going to be able to keep it in that box where it is now. But you know, there's someone else there. And also you may change in the future. And hypothetically, that would not happen with your girlfriend.
But what if your girl, like, friendship ruined? Not necessarily for, like, sexual reasons, but, like, just...
Say that again?
Like, what if you're saying the potential to ruin a friendship with a guy is because of sexual reasons?
Not sexual exclusively.
Mm-hmm.
As I said to him, it goes farther than that. It's about the other person being a member of the opposite sex, with all that this entails when it comes to the personality and the soul, not only the sex.
Well,
Wow.
we've just about reached an hour, so I want to thank everybody for coming. Been helping. Thank you.
If anybody would like to follow up and
Yeah.
talk with Santiago, I'm sure he'd be happy
Of
to
course.
stick around for a few minutes. We also have some food left over in the back if anybody would like some. And I put out a few rovers in the back just to plug for us because we're sponsoring this. So if you want to pick some up, it just came out today. So, but thank you again, and everybody have a good night.
Thank you.